Hello and welcome. And I'm trying to figure this one out as today is the 13th day of November 2017. The code is TGT target. I've really never heard about this code before. On November the 8th, I purchased 3,600 of these for the cost of about half a million satoshi. And I would have put a sell order in to sell every single one of them for 420, and it got filled for 1.5 million satoshi. Then I put a buy order in, and it got hit for over 10,000 of them. 1.5% of a Bitcoin, which is what my investment is basically around the area of a minimum bet for me. So I'm trying to figure out why I put this on it. I think I've seen that this was pumping well on another exchange. That might be what it was, but I'm still trying to figure out why I bought it. I'm glad I did. But it's one of those set it and forget it, because I would have set this order in and then placed the sell order. And then this would have occurred when I was sleeping, but when I would have woke up, I would have seen it. Oh, I bought 10,000 of these. Okay. Well, what I originally did with this 10,000 was put 5,500 for sale at 690 and another 5,000 for sale at 990. And to my delight, I guess, I noticed throughout yesterday and into today that these things were selling. And with the cumulative purchase of about 1.6%, almost all of it was paid back on just the first sell order. And then more sum was in here. 400 is a buyback, but I canceled it. It's lower. I'm actually going to put it back in now, because I told myself I'm not going to buy it at this price unless I can at least sell it at 9. But just recently I noticed that, wow, the bid is 980. An okay amount, nothing major, but a few thousand more than me. And I'm thinking, should I sell all of them? 5,000, that's a lot. I don't want to sell out and see this thing go crazy. So why not sell 3,000 and try to sell now at 970? It's not much of a difference. So the strategy now is the buyback. I'll try to buy this back close to 400 now. This will get removed and reduced to probably about 300, because I know how wild these markets move. And I'll continue to not know really anything about what this code, coin, token, whatever you want to name as a noun. I don't know what it is. I don't really care. But I know what my strategy is. And that's to put your buy orders and set it and forget it. So for now, I'm going to have to put a buy order in for around 400. Remove my, I think it's 300 I got. I'm going to move that probably to 200 or 225, 250. And now I'm not going to need to know anything until the price either goes to 400 or close to 2,000, because I got 2,000 tokens back now. I got two sell orders, one at around 2,000, one at around 5,000, 1,000 each. But when you look at the mathematics for such, already as it stands, the net buys in here is like 1.6%. The net sells, that works out here to 5.3 plus another almost 3, 8.2% sale. I mean, that's pretty much what I'm looking to try to do, is buy low and sell high. And when we know these markets have these huge, massive gains, don't be shy away from going after them, because they will appear. Now I'm going to try to see if I can come up with a chart, because, I mean, where I'm trading this, it's only been around for just pretty much when I started getting it. It was just shortly came on this exchange. And the only thing I can think that I was looking at were these beautiful up and down choppy moves. That's the only thing that makes sense to why I would even go out and try for something like this. Now, the further that I look at it, the more likely I am seeing that this could very easily resist a top. This is the entire duration of the code. As we can see down here, it's only in a time frame of just a month and change, of all of October and a little bit of end of September and this of November. So the bottom here at 100, whoever was lucky enough to get in there, haha, did pretty good, or are doing pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for me to want to buy anywhere. I mean, 400, look at the resistance in here. That's exactly where I want to buy, is 400. Like 400 and 200. I mean, these codes, up and down moves are just so crazy. Let's move on to Ethereum. This is something I've been adding into pretty aggressively today. As I'm just going to follow what has been talked a lot within the web bot, and I do believe this is a period in which the alternate coins are going to rally, and this is a very early entry point, because stage 1, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish resistance. Stage 3, come back to the band. Stage 4, break it. It hasn't broken it yet. But the breaking would come at a buy price of around and above 58. Getting in right now at 49. The way I look at it as a trader, where do you think, or remember, I was aggressively getting out of Ethereum? And the answer was in here. I don't know how many times I was saying, I don't think this level's going to hold. It didn't. And if you're ever making any type of, if you ever have any holdings that you like to have that you predict are going to go down, that you want to get back, then you have to find a way to buy it back. That could be putting buy orders in. I could have bought back in here. I could have bought back in here for the same price as well too. And I could be buying back, and I did, of course, at this stage in here. What I'm really now focusing on doing is reducing the amount of work as a trader that I need to do. And one of those is reducing the amount of codes in which that I am trading, be very much more aggressive and more calculated with a lot of decisions compared to before. So when I showed the TGT, when you realize these codes are going to go, play them accordingly. So I do realize that that the price coming up here means I'm going to be selling more than I will be selling up in here, and I won't be selling much. I'll be selling everywhere. There's just no exception. If I own a lot of it, I'll sell it everywhere. The difference is areas in which require more attention because they're heavy resistance levels will have a higher amount of sell amounts. And the entire time, I'm going to ensure that I play for whatever significant breakouts can happen. I know if this thing breaks the 14-15 handle, that this thing could even go up to 0.5, and who knows if even higher than that. And you want to position yourself to be able to get good profits for when the price action goes in there, already coming off of a decent amount of sales, because the amount of the ethers that I would own at price 0.37 is a lot lower than it would be at the lower prices because of the old selling for profit. But it's going to be interesting, because if this sell order comes in and it reverts, say it comes back down in here, that means I'll have more ether. It'll be marginally small. I'm not going to be too aggressive because I've seen these things go wild. And even if you get a little bit of correcting, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to be profitable. And I'll show you what I mean with Bitcoin right now on that scenario. But that means you like sell 1 unit here, you buy 1 1/3 or 1 1/4 units down here. You buy 25-30% more basically. With Bitcoin, it meant selling in the range of basically in here, and for that matter, a very small amount up here as well. No, I didn't sell there. No, it was, throw that aside because I'm used to seeing the daily time for the two ranges. Yes, so I sold a very small amount at about 5,600, 5,700, I think, somewhere in that area, and then most of it from 65 and north. Yet it if it doesn't go down anywhere where I can buy it back, oh, it's a great call that it was going to be resistance here. It's going to go down some and maybe even correct some through time, but that ain't going to pay the bills and give you a winning trade if it doesn't equate to be able to buy it back at the cheaper price. And as a trader, the way I look at it as this, not for this, maybe this one, I'll talk about this afterwards, but for every other alternate coin, when you sell and you can't buy it back because the market goes higher, well, you hopefully should have a bunch more and you're going to get sell order, sell order, sell order. Maybe you'll sell 20 different orders in a row and only be able to buy the last 6, 7, or 8 of them back, which means the first 11, 12 or so, you'll never see the price go back again, and then you're just forced to profit take. I have no want ever to do anything else with the US dollar tether. So if it happens to be a losing trade for what I put in, a very small but noticeable percentage of my bankroll, to go to sell off, to buy back in this area here, and this thing just goes higher, well, good thing I got a lot of BTC long and other codes priced in Bitcoin that are pretty much still Bitcoin. And portfolio will grow. But I'll have to do something with those. I'll have to raise the buy order, maybe buy them at a loss, maybe buy some other coin with it. So I have to figure something to do with it in a losing situation if that comes up. But with the other altcoins, whether it be the Ethereum or Neo, which I can talk about as well, if I sell it, it just keeps going higher. Then that Bitcoin is Bitcoin. That's great. And Neo, I'm looking at this and trying to paint the story in my head, almost like back in the days when I was at the poker table and I'd be looking at my opponent and trying to put the story together to see if I could be a hero and make an incredible call or an incredible fold or an incredible raise or whatever the action would be. And then here I'm looking at the story and it's pretty interesting. Because in this situation here, I noticed that it broke down this interesting key point here. And I really like after it went down, it didn't even come back and test this level in the short-term time frame, thus ascending triangle breaking higher. And in here we have another ascending triangle within this format, almost looking at the early signs of failed move down, fast move lower. But I do think that this has the potential to go, and for the exact same reason as Ethereum. Again, this is something that the webbot has said a few things about that make me decide, you know what, maybe I will go long. But it really hasn't even done stage 2 yet. Stage 1 is locked. And it's on day number 6 of stage 1, band flatten out. This isn't establishing resistance. That's just yes, it's establishing resistance within this stage, within the neutrality of the band, but establishing resistance is on a breakout. So the early indications for where that place would be is in towards this area here, a little south of the 60 handle, 57, 56 maybe. And then, of course, I'd be looking for all the other steps to come in towards that play. It's a little bit of a risk, to say the least, but I do think that this is something that's going to take off. Now, I haven't put anything aggressive in towards like I have with the Ethereum, or what I'm also adding more in towards, which is Vertcoin or Vertcoin. Vert is green en français. And when you look at its actual logo, it's got the color green on it. So ever since I figured that out, hey, V-E-R-T, that means vert, green, and it's color green. Is this French? That's my early indication. I don't really follow the fundamentals to even know that simple, really meaningless aspect. But I think a lot of these candles coming out might be in that vert color, at least of the large sizes coming soon. since this last play on the daily time frame where it has broken past this key resistance band between the 34 and a little over the 40 handle number, it had a nice rise, very close to little over double from where it broke out from. This support level, well, that's where it came from. And it lifted off quickly after that. And then this is a statement candle. Why is it a statement? Because coming into such, it already had its big price correction. And as I've stated before, whenever the 18 average rises like this, and yet it just goes straight up, if the correction goes well past the 18 lows, well, if it's at an area like this, like previous resistance and well above the previous low, that's fine. That's normal. And then it's how it reacts from this such, and we could see a little bit of this consolidation which took place over 5-6 periods, enough time for things to settle out a little bit, people to digest the situation in place. And then the statement is, okay, this move down is a correction and we are ready to move higher, and we can see already that this level of support is where this resistance has come into place. And just like this had some time to settle the previous move, well, now it has been about 5 or so periods since then, which is days. This is the daily time frame. It has broken above this resistance but pulled back to this symmetrical triangle. So there's a possibility of this being the failed breakout. So that's something to still keep in mind. But the bulls, of course, still in charge of the market. And that could have been just one small amount of holders that have a good amount of shares just selling it down. I don't know what that could necessarily be, what that would be. But if I shorten at the time frame, I'll take a look at some more information. And we'll use the single hour time frame to do such. And overall, it's been in a long sideways consolidation. I mean, the low is at the actual low in here. So 58 handle is the absolute low. Then there's another strong support number within this sideways consolidation at 62. There's another one at current price action in and around 68. And then again at 74, an area that was taken out, which has established a new one in around 78. Therefore, what's important on this breakout is to hold and stay above this key resistance. At least that's how I would see it as. You got this area here, but this area was a big area with the 18 average in here, and just a good, decent above middle area of the range as well. So you want that area to truly act as an area for where it came from, or resistance to be that of support. So in the early stages or for quick moments, if it fiddles below it, that's no big deal. For example, if say someone comes in and maybe not this period, but even still, say someone has a big sell that comes down in here and then it just rises back, that's not holding and staying below a level. And this again, just like a lot of the other ones, this has been something that I've talked about before that I think is going to be good as well. So I'm liking its I like what it's got the capability of doing. And a little bits that I'm reading is this is actually one of those coins for real. It's been talked about by the webbot as well. For good, of course. And this is something that could have huge, major potential because you're looking at gains that Ethereum and Litecoin can have. Well, what's the big difference between all those other big ones and this one? And the answer is just that. They're big ones. They're well known. And another big difference, and probably the biggest, is they've already had their substantial moves. We're looking at something at around 70,000 satoshi, and the prices of Ethereum and Litecoin are much higher than that. And market cap, let me just take a quick gander. Ethereum's 2, Litecoin's probably around 6. And that is the case with Litecoin. But we're looking for VTC, which is in at number 36 with a market cap in and around 28,000 Bitcoin. Litecoin, 510,000. Is it possible? I've seen a lot of these things out of nowhere. NEM, I think that NEO just come out of nowhere to enter the top 10. And if you can time those ones that do so when there are many rankings away, well, that's many profit levels away when you look at it as far as a trade is concerned. Now for something fun to do, this is what I like to do sometimes to see what is just pumping over the last hour. When I see this, I usually am going to get SHIT coins, as they call it, of low volume. Oh, TGT. I wasn't even thinking about that because I knew what I talked about before. Hey, how you doing? It's you're doing pretty good. What else is pumping that? But I look for the big number here. This has got 6,000 Bitcoin volume. So if I never heard of it, I would look at it and say, hey, what's its story? And I'm sure that's what happened a few days ago, as I would have found it here. And I'm thinking, oh, what's its story? And then I would have looked at it and be like, wow, either that or I would have seen it on Hit BTC. And I'm like, well, let's just take a look at its history. And then, of course, because I see it's up and down movements, that's why I wanted to get in. I mean, 796 is really low, but possible. Prospector's gold, because I've never heard of it. Let's take a look at it. We're Coin Exchange and Ether Delta. It's cheap on Coin Exchange, but the volume is just too low. I don't want to try it. Anything else? I mean, these are the names you get, like Sharkcoin and Four and Bitcoin Red. How many times have you talked about Bitcoin Red with people, or the Dime Coin, or the Force Coin? They don't even know how many Bitcoins it's worth. Felcoin isn't even worth a Bitcoin. Block Mason. I don't know what this one is, but it's got. I'm looking for the. I like to sort of buy Bitcoin because I'm just looking for around 1,000, but it's up 89% today. The one thing I want to avoid are the one satoshi ones. It's got a decent enough chart that started to look good. So I can look at a chart quickly and see if it looks good or bad. And I'm looking, yeah, that looks good. And yeah, of course it does what it does. If you want to trade this, it's on Ether Delta. And then I'm looking at this number. Once it fades down to about 10%, I'm just really not as interested. Unless, of course, it's one of the bigger ones like Litecoin or something else at 7 or 8. But that's about it as far as those ones are concerned. Sorry for that quick little glitch there for about a quarter second or so. But now on to the 400-minute time frame, which represents a 5-day moving average. I don't know if there's really any importance of a 5-day or this or that. Like, technically speaking, it's all the same for me. It's an 18 period amongst the candles. I don't care if I'm looking at a daily chart, a 5-minute chart. All the moves are the patterns are the same. But it's interesting. I do like the 5-day because one of my favorite teachers is really big on the 5-day moving average, which is Brian Shannon. And the reason why I'm doing 18 is because of Ira Epstein. He always talked about his 18. I'm like, yeah, and he just happened to be. I just happened to start watching his videos for about a month or so for the second time during my early days in 2008. He was one of my early educators as well. But then I went into I think it was Free Stock Charts, a trading platform, and I noticed when I went to average, they allowed me to do lows and highs. And I was just thinking, well, let's just put them in. And I noticed there's a big difference when I put in the larger numbers. They just wouldn't work. And I can show you what I mean in a second, because I got 18 high and low, as you can see in here. And it's WMA, a weighted moving average. So I realized you needed a number around this point. 20 would work fine. But I don't know which number would be the best, but it's around here. 6, 7 is too small, but when you start to get to numbers like, say, 50, and let's insert a 50 period moving average on this chart, it does paint an interesting picture, and it could actually be one that can work as well, but it's going to be a lot different. So before I show it, I'm going to just explain how this one has been resisting in this area, supporting here. We're supporting this band, trying to have the breakout phase, whereas in here, it's a lot more lagging as far as where it is. Its resistance came up to the 18 average of lows. It also shows that if an 18 average high were to hit on a moving average this larger, it would be a very much a larger push. And there's a lot of action not trading within the band, and there's a lot of more action that would do so because it's further away. And in this case, it's supporting the 50 average, and then, of course, breaking out. When you are trying to figure things out for yourself, do what works for yourself, and then even try to strengthen it to put yourself at the greatest advantage that you can. So if something like this were to work well for you, whatever other oscillator or any indicator that can give you an edge, that's what it's all about, is having an advantage. That's why I've been working towards doing the best to become that of an advantage player, also known as the advantage gambler. And this is gambling, but gambling's got a bad reputation towards the word, like it's something that you lose. Gambling is risking something that can lose, and you can thus be in a negative or positive expectation. But if I was to continuously make $100 bets, that would pay me $307 profit for predicting a random 52 deck card to either be hearts, diamonds, clubs, or spades, and it's a genuine deal, then I'm going to have a small edge, and it's only going to be small on something like that. These types of games, not only can you get past the small edge and into the tiny and moderate edges, but they can go, I think, a lot higher than that. And as I move into my second year, I want to try to fulfill as many large expectations that I can, because I know a lot of the mistakes that I've made, I've been slowly improving upon. And TGT, making sure that I could take advantage of those big gains earlier, was one of them. And I think making sure that I'm set for something like this, that I think can easily have 10, 20x gains on it, is something I want to do as an advantage player. And I will end this by going over just one of the things I was thinking about back in a poker tournament that I played over 10 years ago. And I was sitting at a table. It was very frustrating for me at this time frame because this was the third time I had played this specific tournament. And I had yet to even win a hand in that tournament, so I lost the other two times pretty early. This one, I'm hand number 20 or 30 into it. Haven't won a hand yet. And next thing you know, I have the cards dealt. Someone comes in with a raise, and I really don't have anything big on this. And then someone else comes in with a re-raise. Now, apparently, he was doing all this chitter chatter, and he looked pretty good, actually. I was a little concerned, and I look down at my hand and I see hand Q. And I'm in the think tank trying to figure out what to do. I'm probably thinking into my second minute, and the other person's just going on, and I'm thinking, I gotta fold. This is, and then I'm thinking, well, I haven't won a hand in this turn, but I really wasn't thinking that. Over the last few days, I was getting, I wasn't hitting any wired sets, and I'm thinking, well, if he does have kings or aces, I'm sure to get a queen this time, which is not usually how I think. I also realized that a lot of people would normally play here, and I'm supposed to fold. Okay, I call. And I'm out because he had kings. The tournament before that, I had an ace-10 in the big blind. The blinds were 25 and 50, and I had under 3,000 chips because that's what they gave you, and I've never won a hand in this tournament before, so I probably had somewhere around 26 or 2,700 chips. And it was min-raised by somebody who was a very aggressive player who I know I can outplay on a flop. It was called by a random player, and I finished off by only having to call 50 more. The flop comes down as a 10, a 10, and a 4. I was in the big blind, so I had to act first, and I, looking at the original raiser, thought he was going to lead out. Plus, it's very rare for me to lead out in a multi-way pot when I'm first to act, at least on a small size pot. So I checked, and to my shock and undelight, the player also checked, as did the other player. The 6 came off on the turn, and now after he checked on the flop, I wanted to be very certain that he was going to bet for me to check on this situation. And I was pretty certain he was going to bet with the tell I got on him. So I normally would have bet here, but a tell changed my mind to check. And then he bet, and the other player came in with a decent size raised. Probably would have been, the bet would have probably been somewhere around 200, like 150 or something, 200. Other person would have raised it to maybe like 800, 1,000 or something, and I figured it was all in or fold at this stage. And I'm thinking, really, you got pocket 4s or pocket 6s is what I'm thinking. Could you also have 9-10, king 10? You don't have 5-7. Could you have a pocket pair of jacks? But if so, why did you check that flop? You wouldn't have checked pocket jacks on that flop. And there's no way you have pocket kings or aces because you would have re-raised that on the before the flop. So I was pretty sure you either had pocket 4s, pocket 6, or a 10. But I'm thinking 10-9, 10-jack. I could see why you would check that flop yourself. And I have the ace if you got a 10. But I knew I should have folded. I didn't, and I lost to pocket 6s. And I should have made that fold. But that was part of advanced poker where I made a mistake. Take care.